Okay, what I will be doing is I will be focusing on IVLE, the Integrated Virtual Learning Environment, which is the learning management system here at NUS. Yeah? It should be noted that this is a system which has been specially designed, developed in-house here on campus, and it's a one-stop e-learning portal which is specially designed to facilitate and support teaching and learning at NUS. Okay? What I will be doing in this half-hour session is I'll just take you through some good practices that actually you can easily adopt to make your students' learning experience better. So it's something that's very easy for you to adopt. But most of us, though we know that there are a number of tools, we are just using it in a very different way. So I'll showcase some of the practices that can be very, very easily adopted by faculty members, right? And to start off, I would like to begin with a survey that I'd done a couple of years back at NUS to see how technology has affected teaching and learning here on campus. If you take a look at the first 4 items here, it's very clear that the usage has been at administrative level, right? We haven't moved very much beyond. We are looking most of the time more of IVLE more as an administrative help tool. Look at the first 4, disseminating course materials and assignments, posting reading materials, web links, right? Or focusing on lesson plans. So all of these things are very, very administrative. It helps you in disseminating your content. That's what we are very good at. We have been using it very extensively for that, which is very, very good. But of course, we need to go beyond that, and we are slowly moving towards it. That is visible when you look at the facilitating class discussions via forums, right? But there's a little disparity there. The faculty members are telling us that about 44% of them are actually using forums. But when you look at the students, not many are actually using. What does that tell us? Probably because when you create a module in IVLE, the discussion forum comes as an added package. So most of us are using it. We just put the discussion forum assuming that our students will come and use it. But that's not how it is. We need to make sure that we design our activities around it in such a way that students will come in and use these tools, right? So what I will be doing is, again, seeing how we can use these tools, right? So discussion, and then comes feedback and other tools like online quizzes. So these are the things that we need to move further. So let's look at that. So with that in mind, you know the very important question comes up. We know how they're using it, but why are they using it? So only if we know why teachers and students are using it, we can exploit it, right? So why are we using it? First and foremost is the convenience and the flexibility it allows. It allows for 24/7 access. Your course materials are uploaded at any point of time. It makes it so simple for you to upload, and your students can download it at any point of time. So that's very easy, ease of use, convenience, flexibility. But moving beyond, what makes learning better is the communication and the collaboration that happens within the class and outside of the class, right? That's what is more important. And contextualization. How do I design my activities that individual students can contextualize the activities in such a way based on their own experience and circumstances? So that's something that we need to look at. And lastly is the constructive feedback, which is, again, the very most important. Again, when we say feedback, it's not a one-way feedback from the teacher to the student. It's going to be a two-way feedback. How can I make it two-way feedback, right? So I get feedback from my students to improve on my content. Students get feedback from me to improve their learning. So that's what many of the IVLE tools can actually give us all of these things. So we will look at some of the cases. So with this in mind, I'm going to take you through some cases. I call it the IVLE recipes, right? Recipes for success. It's a good practice, so I'm just going to call it IVLE recipes. So each of them is one such case where you can start easily adopting to any particular module that you're teaching, right? So let's move on to my first one. Firstly, I would like to start off with the very simplest of tools, the IVLE announcement. Okay? when I tell announcement, the first thing comes to our mind is, I'm going to announce timetable changes. I'm going to be announcing movement of class, venue changes, exams coming up. So these are the things that usually comes to our mind. But what we could be doing is, we can actually, after each class, you can post information. What are the kind of things that they can read further? What are the things that I covered in class today? What is that you need to look at to come prepared for your next class? Right? All of these things can be easily incorporated. So this kind of helps your students to come very well prepared. What I'm going to do is, I'm not going to go live into IVLE most of the time. I've kind of put PDF documents so that it makes it a lot more easier and faster. So look at this example. So he goes through what are the kind lecture notes that a student should be looking at, or what was covered during the lecture, and then move on to what is that I'm going to cover in my next lecture. And he also goes into other things. So I'm just going to go into that particular announcement. I've just made it into a, so you look at this particular document, you have, okay, starting from here, you have given all kinds of web links that students needs to go to. So at the end of this module, if a student just before his exam can just go and take a look at this list of announcements, he knows very well what has been covered in that entire, and all of the content, all of the help needed, materials needed is just in this one location. Right? So it becomes a very good information or a bulletin board for you to have all your information at one point. So that's IVLE announcement for you. So it's a very simple tool. It just takes a couple of minutes to make this just after every single class, and you can make it very, very effective. Right? I'm going to move on. So this is more on, so it's telling content creation. A very minimal communication is happening here. But we need to move beyond. We need to look at communication and collaboration. Right? When I say collaboration, the first thing, the tool that comes to our mind is the discussion forum. Right? The discussion forum is the tool that you will be using for collaboration. But what is important here is that we need to find ways to use this discussion forum very effectively, and you can actually combine it with other tools. There are many, many tools, and you can actually combine each of these very well. So for the first example, I'm going to show is how do I extend my real-time class discussions. So you divide your students into groups. These groups could be probably your tutorial groups. You can use class groups which you specially design for your particular class. And then you discuss on different issues related to a specific topic, which means each group is talking about a specific issue on that particular topic. Right? So the discussion happens in class, and you can actually take it further, or a little variation you can do is you can use the chat room. You bring that same group to discuss the same issue further in a chat room. Okay? So this happens outside of class. So what's the good thing here is that as a facilitator, you can go in and check out these discussions. And you can even archive these discussions for future use. Right? And if you have done your discussions, then the students come back to the forum again and summarize, put a little summary of the discussions that they have been doing so far and put it into the forum. And that's where they start again discussing, commenting on each other's, and the number of issues now they've learned is a lot. Though they concentrated on one particular issue, but when they are commenting on the other issues, they're actually learning more through collaboration. Right? And this again allows you to review and revisit. If, for example, you have another topic very related to the same topic, you can actually ask them to come back and further continue the discussion using the same forum. Right? So this is the one which is more important. How do I have an activity? So you would need to not just tell them, okay, go and discuss on this activity. you need to give a specific time frame, let's say 1 week duration for you to do the chatting or discussing just after your class. And then the next week is where you comment on the forum, each of the summary, and then come back and discuss, bring it back into class and start discussing again. So only then you will know how they are using and how you can actually improve, right? So let me move on to my second one, which is enhancing students' understanding on topics. Again, I'm going to be using the discussion forum here, but we bring in other tools like reading materials, web links. It can be the work bin materials where you put in reading materials for them to read, but you create these reading articles online every week. And you expect, what you do is you have questions in your discussion forum that is based on these reading articles. So you just don't post the reading articles and leave it there assuming your students will be reading them, right? You give them a certain time, let's say a week's duration for them to read, and then come back and put postings based on those issues that has been, based on the question that you have put in the discussion forum, right? And now you're just doing the opposite. The earlier one, you had the discussion initially in class and moved it to the forum. Now what you're doing is you started off your discussion in the forum and you're bringing it into class. As a face-to-face class, you bring in the same discussion into your class. So these are some of the ways that you can actually increase the usage of discussion forum. Again, this is very, very similar to the one I have discussed earlier, feedback on peers' presentation. Here, they're not looking at a reading material. Instead, it's a presentation. So what you could do is you can ask your students to record their presentation and upload it into the multimedia banks, right? If they are not able to do it, you can use your student submission to submit their their video recorded sessions, and from there, you ask the other student here, you can be very specific. You can get one student to do a peer review of another student, or probably you can get 2 or 3 students to be peer reviewing one particular student's presentation, right? Again, when I say video recorded session, it need not be only a video recorded. It can be an audio session. It can be a PowerPoint with just an audio on, or it could be a brief presentation. There are many, many variations to this, right? So it's how you decide on what is the kind of presentation that my students should be peer reviewing. So based on that, it could be an article or an essay that has been written, and you can do a peer review, right? I'm going to move into the last of these discussion forum items, which is a very good example, which is providing support for assignments. Those of the faculty members who have used this kind of tool, this kind of activity, have found that their students' writing have improved considerably, very, very well. Because what happens is they're not just being reviewed by the facilitator, but they are also being reviewed by their own cohort, right? So as they keep reading each other's work, it drastically improves. So this is an example. So in week 1, the facilitator comes in, introduces the topic, and gives an overview, and tells them how a proposal or a proposal draft should be. So what are the kind of things that should be included? So that happens in the first week. During the second week, the student thinks about it, formulates a question, and puts up his draft proposal, not to the lecturer by email, but in the discussion forum itself, right? After he's put it up, his peers come in and review. I'm just going to go into the example now. You take a look at it. So the proposal is posted here, the research question, the methodology, and so on. And then all those that's highlighted in yellow are from his peers, his other students coming back and telling him, maybe you should look into this. Maybe you forgot this. Maybe there are other things that you need to be looking at. So he gets a lot of ideas coming in. And you notice the number of comments that came in were from his peers initially. The facilitator does not come in at the first instance. He waits until a number of students have come in. Probably you can even specify each of you should actually comment on maybe 3 or 4 other presentations or 4 other proposals. If you actually specify that, then you will notice that there are people who are coming in giving very good comments on the proposal itself. And then the facilitator comes in and gives his thoughts. Okay, so this happens during the third week, after which it goes beyond. Then we have gotten all the thing, you leave about few weeks. The 7th week is where they submit their, not the full assignment, but probably chapters 1, 2, and 3, or sections 1, 2, and 3, and so on. So that's being submitted. Now it's not being submitted into the forum. Instead, you use the work bin, right, where student submissions go in. So this is what happens. You see the proposals are all here, submitted here, and another student is allotted to review each proposal. So they review their peers, and they again upload that into their work bin, right? So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, one second. Okay, just going to go in there. Okay, so here it is. So you have the research proposal submissions, and then the reviews by their students, the peer who is being assigned, after which, after all of that is done, then comes the lecturer. He comes in, the facilitator comes in, puts in the review. So this all happens just after the 7th week, and then you give them good enough time, let's say for about 2 or 3 more weeks, and then the final submission comes in. So you notice here that I'm also pleased that this proposal shows and that you have understood, okay, that you have advanced, that you have understood what it means, and so on. So you notice that the improvement happens very, very well. This is a very, very good example of using the discussion forum. Okay, before I move on to this course gallery with pictures, are there any questions so far on the discussion forum and the announcement? Yeah.
Are you finding any of the professors that are using these techniques are archiving the resulting documentation, and is that a source of subsequent?
There are some faculty members actually doing that. They do use it to showcase it for their next coming class. So that actually makes it easier for them rather than going through it, this is what you should be doing, this is what happens. It's actually very easy if they just show it to the students. It makes it very simple. It just takes a couple of minutes to do that. Yes, they are doing it. Actually, this is one of the archive that I've taken off from one of the faculty members. Yeah. Are there any other questions before we move on? Okay, if nothing else, let me just move on to creating course gallery with pictures. This is a very good, not just with pictures, it can be other things. You can have flow charts, you can have short videos and so on. So here, what I'm using is the IVLE work bin in collaboration with the glossary bank. So at present, for the glossary bank, you will notice that students are not able to actually upload their materials into the bank. So they will need your assistance to actually load it up. So what you should be doing is, you use the work bin for them to submit their articles. So once you get the work bin articles, you as the facilitator, or you can get the help of your tutors to get this into your glossary bank. This, like you were saying, it's a very good way of bringing it forward. because one class does on a particular topic, and then you can carry it forward to your next class. You can have another particular section where you want to get your glossary bank, and then it keeps adding on, and by the end of probably 2-3 semesters, you would have a fairly big glossary bank, right? And it becomes a knowledge content for your forthcoming students, because they don't need to be doing that. They can just take a look at it and they'll be seeing that. So that's how you can create glossary bank. And then there is these enhanced MCQs. This is where you look at how do I comprehend the knowledge that I have learned, how do I apply it, and so on. And the first thing that will come to our mind is the assessment, right? But usually when we look at assessment, we are looking at just the normal standard MCQs. Don't do that. Just go beyond it. Look at questions which actually let students to consider the extensive new information. Let's say, for example, a question is like this. Okay? They don't just come in, just put in the answer there. They need to read. They need to understand. They need to comprehend what is there in that question before they can actually click on their answer. So when you're doing MCQs, don't just resort to the standard MCQs, but go beyond it, right? So what I'm going to, actually I'm just there on time. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be skipping the rest of the cases that I have, but I would like you to consider, so anytime you start thinking about using IVLE, the first thing you will need to do is, what am I going to be using it for? Am I going to be using it for streamlining administrative workload? Then the way you design your activities is going to be different. But if you're going to be collaborating and communicating, then you need to work on. So think about all of these before you design your activities. Okay, with that I will close. But one last thing that I want to let you all know is that what I've done is I want to take this forward. What I've done is I've created a blog there with all of these recipes, and I'll be adding as we go along. And I hope I'll get a lot of input from all of you so that I can keep developing this gallery to make it even better. I'm not sure if it's going to work because this morning the blog site was down. Just going to take a look to see. Okay, there it is. So I haven't actually put in all of those recipes. So some of it I have put in, and I actually appreciate it if you have other ideas that I haven't actually put in there. Please come in, or if you want to have variations, go in there, write your comments, and then we will develop this into a better and better gallery. Okay? Thank you.